Well, good evening, everyone. We'll just wait a minute or two as other people start to log on to our self-esteem, strengthening your self-esteem Facebook Live. I'm Diane Young. Most of you know that. I'm South Pacific Private. And while we're waiting, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we work and live, the Gay and Magal people. Want to honour their elders past, present and emerging. So as we just wait a minute or two for people to log on, I'd like us to think about what self-esteem might be like and how we struggle with it. So I guess the first thing I want to talk to you about tonight is, what is self-esteem? How can we, what causes the low self-esteem and how can I improve it? So in terms of self-esteem, when we're talking at South Pacific, we always talk from the model of developmental immaturity that Pia Mellody developed all those years ago. And as many of you know, and for those of you that don't, let me explain. So in a family system, we have things that we need as little children, and I'm talking kind of 0 to 18, but really even in our formative years. And we need to be of value. We need to be valued in the family system so that whether I stand upright, breathe in and out, whatever it is I do, I'm of value. Now, this does not mean that I'm of value only if I look after my siblings, or only if I keep my room tidy, or only if I'm captain of the cricket team, or only if I get an A in maths and be the best student. We are of value. We have inherent worth. That's our birthright. But if we grow up in a family system where we don't feel that, and that's not the message we're given, then we will not develop healthy self-esteem. Now, healthy self-esteem is a sense of our own preciousness. It comes from inside us and goes out to the people in our life. So it will be whether you like me, whether you don't like me, whether I get picked for the team, whether I don't, that I'm still of value. And really, when you consider self-esteem, it's such a critical thing that if we're not given that in our formative years, we're going to struggle as adults. And if we do that, what's going to happen is we're going to go to two places. If we don't have healthy self-esteem, it was not given to us, it was not taught to us, it was not embodied to us as little ones, then we will go to two places. We will go to less than, that is, it doesn't matter what I do, I'm never going to be good enough. And even though I might present like I'm on top of things and managing very well, part of me within myself is always going to feel like I'm not worthy. And the other side we go to, and when we're talking about that in terms of the model, we're talking about sitting in wounded child. Now, for those of you that have done quite a bit of work on your inner world, it might be your inner child, not your wounded one. The other place we go to is we sit in better than. Now, better than kids, and kids who are raised with a sense of entitlement, comes when we're raised in a family system where what we observe is that the way you get through life is you prevail over other people. That is, and I often give the example, for those of you that have heard the lecture, the model lecture at South Pacific, I often give the example of, Dad's been, president of the Cricket Association for a million years. He's now past president. And you come home from school and he says to you, did you get picked for the cricket team? And you go, no, I'm not picked. I'm just there to carry the oranges or whatever they do at cricket. I don't know, whatever they do. And he's incensed. What do you mean you didn't get picked for the cricket team? I was past president, I'm president, past president. I said, let me immediately ring the coach and rectify that. Now, the reality is you might not even like cricket. But you're raised in a family system where it does you no good to say that you don't like cricket. You're going to be playing cricket whether you like it or not. But what you observe your father do is pick that phone up, get on the phone to the coach, get you in the team. You may not be able to hit the ball. I don't know. But you'll learn that the way you do life is you prevail over others. Better thans are always difficult because it's a sense of being grandiose and arrogant, and no one likes to own that. But the truth of it is that it's not something you've created, it's something that you've learnt, it's something that you've observed. So we either sit in less than or better than. That creates a whole lot of presenting problems for us. Could create addiction, anxiety, depression, could create interpersonal relationship issues, money issues, all sorts of other things present because we're not living authentically. We're sitting in less than or we're sitting in better than. Now, I make up this is what happens. As we grow up into adulthood, if we feel fundamentally less than as children, that's painful. You know, it's a sense of pain in the body. We don't want to feel painful. So we'll learn very quickly to go from less than to better than quite quickly. And so we'll flip-flop with both. We don't stay in less than very much. I often say to addicts when I'm working with addicts, often when you're in that sense of feeling less than and low and in pain, that is where you'll act out. The part of you that feels better than will be the part that actually justifies the addiction. No, I'm all right, I don't need help with this, you know. In the same way, for people that experience anxiety and depression, they will feel it low when they're at their low, you know, in their less than space. And then when they've, you know, people are starting to impact them, people are troubling them about getting help, they'll quickly zip up their feelings. No, I'm all good now, I'm all good. And they'll sit in there better than. So there's a lot of flip-flopping goes on when we're adults and we've not settled with our self-esteem. We've not made friends with ourselves. Predominantly what we need to do is learn to esteem ourselves from within. And that's a very big task for someone who was not valued and did not develop healthy self-esteem. So, self-esteem, let me just go through a couple of things. Self-esteem can affect you, how much you like and value yourself. It can help you make decisions and assert yourself in various situations. It helps you recognise your strengths, you know, what am I good at? It actually helps you try difficult things. You know, you have a go at difficult things. It helps you be kind to yourself when you've been working very hard or taking on a lot of projects or looking after family or friends. And it helps you not to take on. So if you make a mistake, you won't treat yourself unfairly. I often say to clients, you know, it's the voice in your head that will often say to you, you're rubbish, you're too overweight, what's the point, you're not cut out for this kind of work. You know, there's a lot of inner critic when we're suffering with low self-esteem. What we need to learn to do is take time for ourselves to soothe ourselves and actually get to the point where we believe we matter and we're good enough irrespective of what we do or don't do. I often say, you know, to clients, 99.9% of the mistakes you're going to make in life are not life-threatening. And when you make a mistake, it's just a matter of making another decision and making another assessment and taking some action. But if you live with that high level of perfectionism, you'll be really hard on yourself. And that also comes out of that low self-esteem as well. So the kind of things that we need to learn about ourselves and to get to the place where we can esteem ourselves from within, sometimes to do that, we need to look at what causes low self-esteem. And the kind of things that, you know, in my world, when I'm working with clients at South Pacific, what causes low self-esteem is being, often being bullied or abused in your history, having experienced traumatic events in your history. Now, if they start from when you're little and you've got a series of them, there will be a constant sense of not being able to manage them, and it won't matter which way you look, you'll feel like you've got nowhere to go. As adults, however, even if we've got history where we weren't able to look after ourselves and nobody else was looking after us, we may actually get through life using some drugs and alcohol, using work, using exercise, using a number of things to actually try and not feel the distress we feel. What we will do is we'll get into adulthood and perhaps become very high achievers. Now, if suddenly you lose your job, or you have difficulty finding employment, or you have problems, interpersonal problems with people at work, you're going to spiral quite quickly, because we haven't gone back and done the work on our childhood so that we can actually step into some power in our adulthood. They can often manifest as physical health problems, problems with money, finances, and of course the big one for many of us is problems in relationships, perhaps separation, divorce, that sort of thing, and being estranged from our children. So those sort of things as adults can cause low self-esteem, but predominantly the people I work with experience low self-esteem because as children they were not valued. As children they were not allowed to speak up for themselves, I couldn't tell you how many times in a day I would say to somebody who's quite functional on the outside, maybe it's time we learn to speak up for ourselves, Maybe it's time we learn to say no. And again, I often say to people, no is a sentence, No is, you're able to set a boundary and say, no, thank you very much, but no, I can't make it. Thank you very much, but no, I'm unable to do that, or whatever it is. And so many of us find difficulty saying no because we don't think fundamentally that we're worth backing. So when I talk about self-esteem, and now I want to talk about how to improve it, what I want to say, and what I do say often to clients, is we have to learn to back yourself, right? You're an adult now. You've got history that we need to unpack and work through and integrate. But what we need to do in the first instance is get to know ourselves. What makes you happy? What do you put value in? What do you value about the life that you have? What would you like to have in your life you don't have? And sometimes, often with a pen, not with a typing, but with a pen, I ask people to journal. Just do some rapid writing, 15 minutes, knock it out, don't edit, don't worry about punctuation, spelling, just get it out. And then start to challenge, after you've done that 15-minute dump, what are some of the unkind things that you say to yourself about yourself? The sort of things you don't tell anybody else. Maybe you tell a therapist, maybe you tell a very close friend. So, when talking to ourselves in a negative way, can I ask you, or could I offer to you, or could I suggest to you that perhaps you say, would I talk to my best friend like this? Or what advice would I give my best friend in this situation? So being a little more positive, and I'm not doing that, let's be positive and Pollyanna, I'm not doing that. But I am saying, if you don't back yourself, and thank you, Vanessa, I'm glad that you love the statement, and hello, Dean, back. I'm just getting some messages through, and feel free to jump on if you've got a question or you want to make a comment, that's great, because I can see them coming through. When you say negative things about yourself, how do you respond, And sometimes I think we do need to reach out to a friend. If we're going through a tough time. I had a client recently going through a very tough time. You know, she needed to get support for some friends, to, you know, get to some extra meetings, and, you know, she needed to sort out some things in her work-life balance and stuff. And she's done that, you know, and it's been a tough 4 or 5 days for her, you know, but she's reached out and got it, you know. I mean, if somebody came to you and asked for help, you know, if somebody said to you, look, I'm really, you know, struggling right now, could I just, you know, have a quick chat with you every day, just a check-in call, or every couple of days, just to make sure that I'm connecting with people who are supporting me so I can learn to support myself. Would you say no to that? I doubt you would, because you know what it's like. And so give people the opportunity to support you, because if you don't do that, they never get to grow and you never get to accept the help. And see, we can be very walled when we get frightened and low self-esteem. We can be very walled about that, not want anybody, you know. And if I'm walled, I don't let you in, but I don't get out either. So, you know, I'm stuck. So I need to let some of those walls down, even a little tiny bit, and ask for help. So it's very good to do that. One of the other things I'd like to mention is social media. And I think we're very good in social media in comparing ourselves to other people. So it might, you know, we might need to limit how much time we have on social media. We might need to limit, you know, believing that what we're seeing on social media is actually the entire truth about someone's life. Do you know, I had a client recently who came back from overseas, and the pictures on social media looked amazing, right? And he walked in the door and I said, how are you? I didn't mention anything at all about the holiday, right? Because I don't comment on people's stuff unless they're friends. But, you know, how's have you been? Yeah, no, we're back from overseas. Yeah. I said, oh, how was that? He said, it was just awful. It was just awful. Now, I can tell you, none of those photos made it look like it was awful. So if I'd have been judging his life based on those photos, I'd have been sadly mistaken, you know. I mean, they were nearly in divorce by the time they got back to Australia. I shouldn't laugh, I'm sorry. They're all right now, just letting you know. But I do think there's that sense of making sure that, you know, that I'm not buying into the other, well, what can be sometimes, that what I'm looking at on social media is not the full picture of someone else's life. Thank you, David, for the laughing faces. So I certainly have come to realise that people get to choose what they present about their lives online. And in reality, in my experience and in my own life, no one's life is perfect, and everyone has some level of feeling, you know, a little insecure, you know, not quite so as happy as they want to be. So this is a part of the world where we have to actually take steps. I would ask you also just to take a moment to recognise the positive things about your life. You know, I mean, years ago in 12-Step Recovery, we were all doing gratitude journals, right? And then Oprah decided to do a gratitude journal, and the whole world was doing it. So there you go. We were before our time, though. And so I often say to people, do gratitude journal. You know, some people say do 10 things in a journal. I don't care. Do 6. Doesn't matter. Count them on your 6 fingers. You know, I'm grateful I live in Australia. I'm grateful I have my health. I'm grateful my family's well. I'm grateful the dog's well. You know, so it goes. I'm grateful I have work. I'm grateful I have security, financial security. You know, whatever those things are, they're important to you, because let's be honest. You can get out help, and I would always say to anybody who's struggling, reach out for help. We deal with self-esteem issues, anxiety, depression, PTSD, addiction, of course, in South Pacific all the time. And underpinning all of those presenting problems, the reasons why people come into South Pacific, is generally low self-esteem, self-esteem issues, and depression and anxiety. They're the main ones. When Pia Melody did the hi Heidi, when Pia Melody did put the model together, she always said that if you can get on top of your self-esteem issues and your boundary issues, and the boundary issue was the one we did the last Facebook Live, was about boundaries. It's worth having a look at, not just because I did it, because I thought it's just great information. So if you can get on top of self-esteem and boundary issues, you will be more than halfway there to recovery from codependency, which comes out of your childhood trauma. And I think that's an amazingly big statement, given there's another 3 issues that we work through. So, just sort of wrapping up. Am I wrapping up? Yeah, I'm just looking at my colleague here. I want you to celebrate your successes, and I don't care how small they are. I want you to take time to give yourself a pat on the back. Praise yourself. I did that well today. I'd like you to take some time to get out in nature, go for a walk. Take the dog for a walk. The dog will be very grateful. Be kind to somebody. Take care of what your space is around you. If someone gives you a compliment, don't say, no. Just say thank you. Let it in. Just practice letting it in. If you're very, very brave, and this is a very, very brave person, with someone that you trust, and that's someone who's functional, you might ask them what they like about you, if you feel comfortable. They may recognise things about you that you don't recognise about yourself, and that's often a surprise, because I think sometimes we look through the lens, the same lens we've been looking through for years, and we need someone to come and say to us, you're kind, you're this, you're empathetic, whatever the words are that they might use, and allow it in. Write a list of things you like about yourself. And again, I don't care if it's just 3 things. Might be something like something you've learnt. Might be the fact that you help people. Might be the fact that you say hello in the street. When I'm walking the dog in the morning early, I say good morning to everybody, whether they want me to or not, and it becomes a joke, So they become joking. I've been walking past a guy for 12 years, and I say to him, good morning, how are you? His answer is always, tremendous, tremendous. That's all he ever says to me. I don't know his name. I know what his dog's name is. Tremendous. And it becomes a light thing that happens in the morning. So, thank you, Vivian and Heidi. Nicole, good to see you. What are the other 3 pillars, please? As you said, I think. Okay, so we've got self-esteem, boundaries, reality, and the reality's in the 4 areas: body, thinking, feeling, behaviour. Dependency, which taps into the 9 dependency issues, and moderation. So you can probably find the model, I'd say, somewhere in one of Pia's books. It's a fascinating model, and the more I work with it, the more depth I find in it. Natalie, wow. Recently overwhelmed, half a dozen friends offered me their kidney. My goodness me. Can't quite see the rest of that message. But anyway, they offered you a kidney. I think that's extraordinary. Oh, here we go. Okay, that moves. Okay. As I needed kidney transplant, overwhelming, letting it in, found a new level of love. Just amazing. It's an interesting thing you say, because I thought I had friends and stuff like that. There were people who liked me. No. And I had breast cancer 8 years ago. I'm 8 years free of it now. And I was staggered. Not that people did overt stuff, but the outpouring of love I received was just extraordinary, to the point where even I was actually overwhelmed by the amount of love I felt, None of us do this life alone. Please God, none of us ever have to do it alone. And if you are feeling like you're doing it alone, could I suggest to you reaching out a little bit? Maybe volunteering if you're not working, maybe joining things that you might be interested in. Please just reach out. And in the world today, we need to be together. I think if COVID taught us anything, if the floods and fires taught us anything, if the wars that are horrific stuff that's happening overseas taught us anything, is we have today. You and I have today. We can do what we can today. And if I make your world a little bit easier, perhaps I make my own world a little bit easier. So there's a lot of reciprocity in what we do in this world that we live in. So I'm really excited. So do I have a recommendation of Pia Melody's books? Yes. Facing Codependency from when I was SP 25 years. Yes. So We've got Facing Codependency, Facing Love Addiction. The Intimacy Factor is the other one. So there's another 2 books. She also does, she's got quite a bit of stuff on YouTube, I think, and online. So it's worth actually having a look at that. Never Alone Again. I totally agree, Natalie. We don't need to be alone again. So I'm grateful that you've logged on tonight. That's very good. I hope it's been a little bit helpful. Please try and take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Spend time outside, do some physical activity, keep an eye on what you're eating. You know, that does make a difference. Practice meditation, mindfulness. You know, don't overdo recreational drugs and alcohol. I wouldn't do any anyway because I'm sober, but you know, I wouldn't be suggesting you use that. And any sort of self-help program. So if you're not in 12-step recovery, that's okay, but if you need to be in 12-step recovery, then give it your best shot. So what have we got here? I compare myself negatively with others when they tell me about self-care they've been doing and I haven't been doing that same self-care, or adventures they can do when I'm not adventurous. So, okay, that's been a bit good to be adventurous. I like adventures. They're fun, aren't they? So we can always reach out. And look, I think people sometimes need others to do adventures with. Even little ones are fun. Sculpture in the sea, near the sea, you know, there's all those fabulous things. Thank you. I love these lives. Even after 25 years, they keep me focused on my ongoing recovery. So grateful. Thank you, Diana. Roz, thank you. Helpful as always. That's wonderful. And, you know, always reach out to us if you need help. Any sort of help at all. Intake staff are extremely experienced and very willing. And I was doing some work with them last week at South Pacific, and they're fabulous women and men who are highly trained and very empathetic to whatever you're doing. Lena, good to see you online. Haven't seen you in a little while, so that's good to see you. Hope all's well. So I think we're coming to the end of it now. We're coming to the end of it. And I think we can take a breath, do a gratitude journal, write down half a dozen things we like about ourselves, and maybe half a dozen things we'd like to do in our life that we've never done. Thank you, Debbie, for logging on. I'm grateful. Nice to hear from you. And we do it for ourselves first in our life. If I don't, as I said at the beginning, if I don't back myself, no one else will. And I'm very grateful that you've all logged on tonight. So with that, we might finish up and just know that South Pacific's always in and available. This will be recorded, so it'll be on the South Pacific YouTube channel, so you can always have a little listen at another time. So, thank you very much and good evening.